So it's nice and sunny, just trying to find the record button. I'm going to talk about finding love, and I'm not talking about some ordinary way of finding love, the way that's been tested around the world with the greatest success, and that is the Muslim way. Okay, and this is statistically true. Muslims by far have the most children, and they don't have most children by accident. They're not like higher testosterone levels or something. It's because their relationships last. Okay, and you can see this. You have to be blind not to be able to see this in this country all over the place. So I want to talk about why are Muslims so successful in every country all over the world. Just to give you a statistic, in the UK, we Muslims are only less than 5% of the population, but we have 10% of the children. Everywhere we have the most children. You can check up statistics, but UK, you just search UK children by ethnicity and religion.
Some African families, they have lots of kids.
They do, yeah. But I think Muslims do have more.
Yeah, but on average we have the most. And so let's just talk about a few things. So before I talk about the method, you have to know what you're looking for when you're searching for the right person, finding love. Okay? And there's a basic mistake. The reason why I say a lot of white people, a lot of godless people, and I'm not saying in an insulting way because I love all people, really. And I want to talk about this. I suppose my intention should be clear that I think a lot of people are suffering. This is not just a fun conversation. If you are going without sex and you're a grown man and you don't have a relationship, you are going to be suffering. And the biggest killer in London, where I am, okay, is loneliness. This is not a small thing to look over or laugh over. All my talks are about happiness. Do check out the link for bigquestionsanswered.com, where I talk about all the different elements of happiness. This is a very important part of it. So this is no joke. Now, I say white people because this is largely them that are suffering from this problem, but all sorts of other ethnicities are also suffering from this. Is statistically true, right? And I bring out the white thing because then they can take it personally in a way, and then they can think about it. What's happening? Okay, so white people are dying out in this country. It sounds funny, but that's another topic I want to talk about. Anyway, so what do I say? Largely godless people. What do they suffer from when they're looking for people? They're looking for iPhones. That's kind of my simplistic way. They say, hang on a minute, are we not talking about relationships with human beings? And yes, they've objectified human beings. And I say iPhones. When I talk about iPhone, become an Android phone user, I know that you can get the same features, even more with an Android phone, for half the price. But you care about appearances, and sometimes you care about the function. There's a reason. Sometimes if you've got other Apple devices, you have to, right? But this is when you really care about it. And then and then people go, no, I've fallen in love. There's definitely love. And I say, no, it's the same experience that people who queue up, or used to queue up for hours for an iPhone, that's the same experience you have when you're falling in love. And because there's the excitement of chasing something you don't have. Okay, but we know that it's just like an iPhone, because when you get the iPhone 100, next year iPhone 101 comes out and you throw iPhone 100 in the bin. And that's what you see in Western relationships at the moment. And this is not just me being insulting. I truly want to help, and people wake up to the reality. Okay, so if you stop treating people like things, okay, then if you know what you're truly looking for, what do Muslims look for? And it's very simple. You can see through the statistics what they look for through the actions. Okay, first of all, they make it very simple. Every human being has some basic needs, and it's not just sexual needs, but sexual needs are very important. Everybody needs to have sex. Actually, it's a very important need that God has created in you, that you desperately try to reproduce. Otherwise, humanity will die out. So God, or whatever, even if you don't believe in a creator, this is a basic. One of the most basic and important functions is to reproduce. And so in all creatures, you're given a lot of pleasure from that to encourage you to do that thing. It's no accident. There's pleasure attached to it. That's just a basic, but also companionship is incredibly important. I told you the biggest killer in London is loneliness. That tells you how important companionship is. You can have male friends, you can have family and whatever, all this kind of stuff, but companionship with a wife is a different experiences. In the Quran it says we've brought you, giving you men and women, so you have a sort of, what's the word, softness between each other. I'll have one after, but I appreciate it. Oh, in the pocket, yeah. This is the speaker's corner kind of thing. We're all kind of like a close community here, and it's really nice that we can be really direct with each other in the speaker's corner. There's no malice really. It's just to have important direct conversations that are simply not held outside speaker's corner. So just so you know what I'm talking about, finding love the tried and tested way, statistically true, right? So I'm saying, in short, in our Western godless, and I'm not just saying in a pure, I'm trying to be accurate, godless society, increasingly godless society, we treat people as objects, and therefore those relationships do not last because we get tired of objects, just like we get tired of iPhones. Okay, so what do Muslims do statistically, who have the most children and the strongest family? They look for three things instead of just looking for outward appearance. Okay, they look for their basic needs, and then they look for family. They don't just get married to a person, they get married to a family, and they have the intention of having families. That's why they have the most children. Okay, and then why do they want that? They want to make the world a better place. This is just natural. You want to make how do you have a good society? You start with a good person, and then you have a good family, then you have the good street. If you don't have a good family, you don't know how to be nice to the people who matter to you most. You can't be nice to other people. And even in English society, British society, people don't even talk to their own brother and sister. They put their parents into old people's homes. In a Muslim country, that's an insult, massive insult, to even have the idea of an old people's home. Okay, so this is the basic problem, and if you know what you're looking for, it makes it much easier to find the right person. And just in case people are doubting that we treat people like objects, the number one way in which people are find mates, as it were, in Western society is, what's that? I forgot what that. Tell me the dating apps. Tinder, 100%. Number one app is Tinder, and just to tell you how bad it is, only 4% of the men are selected from women. Okay, and they're all the same 4%. Okay, and so the way it works, and it takes less than a second on average to choose a person. That means they're just looking at your face. They don't care about your personality or anything like that, right? So. And basically, it's the same 4% who go through thousands of women, okay, and they treat them like crap because you can't actually have a relationship with 4,000 women, right? You can have one night stands, and then to have that mentality of when you have sex with somebody, you automatically build a relationship with them, emotional. You're designed for that, and if you ignore that, there's a famous psychologist called Jordan Peterson. You heard of him? Yeah? You've heard of him?
Yeah.
Right? He says that kind of behavior is psychopathic because you're ignoring your basic feelings. Basically, you're treating women like rubbish. So that means this app, which is the number one app for finding relationships, and unfortunately, it's not very good at that. It's mainly one night stands. Encourages people to get in relationship with psychopaths and ignores the 96% of men, which is a very serious problem.
I don't think mainstream religions in general, I'm talking Christianity, Islam, Judaism, I don't think they treat women particularly well. They don't have a great track record.
So where did you hear this?
It's not where I heard it. It's observation.
At least he said all religions
you know,
instead of only Islam. So
I'm an atheist, so I treat all religion with the contempt it deserves, complete contempt. I don't give it any credibility. I don't respect it at all.
Yeah.
I respect people's right, obviously, to hold these views, but for me, they're fairy stories. And so when you stand here and talk to me about Islam and the extended family and how it keeps society together and how it's the language of love, and I apply this to Christianity and Judaism as well, I don't see much love up here. I don't see any of that up there. I don't see any love up there. All I see is very, very angry people, right? Muslims. No, I get that.
So what I'm going to demonstrate, no, I'm going to, so you can have your feelings and you can have your,
It's just, I'll be very quick and then I will be quiet because I don't want to sound like these people up here.
Yeah.
You're right. You've got to be argumentative and you've got to get a point across, and I fully understand that. That's fine. But you can only do that if you have a discussion like this one, where one person speaks, forthrightly, expressing strong views. That's fine. And that's why we're here. But up here, you can't hear anything. I've moved away because there's no debate up there.
Sure. So could you get to your main point?
Yeah. Yeah, well, my main point is that I don't accept your premise. I don't accept your premise that religion in general, and you were talking about Islam specifically, but I stress that I apply my points to, in general, I don't have religion. I don't need religion to tell me about the importance of family and children. I love my children. I talk to my children. I stay with my partner. Yeah?
Did you get that knowledge yourself, or did you get it?
No, I didn't get it through any.
I want to quickly give an answer.
I think I've given you an answer.
Inherited some
No,
religious.
I'm going to give you a response. Sorry.
Inherited religious attributes.
Okay, can I give a response to that?
Human attributes.
Could I give a response?
I think we're innately good.
But
I
his
don't
claim
think.
is-
I want to explain how you're wrong.
That 5% of Muslim in Britain, they have 10% of children.
Uh-huh.
So why do you think the 5% of families they have more children?
I don't know.
More
I don't know.
families.
I don't know. Is it contraception? I don't know. It's societal habits. But because there's more children, that's not proof that way forward, that those religious values in any way contributes to a better society. I don't need that to be good to people.
Okay, so can I respond to it? Because you said a lot, but can I respond to it? So I'm just going to quickly give an answer. Listen, look at as society, and this is all psychologists know this. You can see on Big Think. This is a good go on YouTube and look at the effect of atheism on loneliness and all sorts of psychological issues. You'll see that, and this has been known for a very long time. As society becomes increasingly atheist, we can see we become more lonely. So you have places like London, which is the biggest killer in London is. Do you know what the biggest killer in London is?
I would imagine it.
Loneliness. Okay, so atheism, you can have the theoretical idea that I think godlessness is the biggest danger of society. I'm not being just disrespectful. This is, if I was putting the finger on what is the problem, is godlessness. Because without God, you don't follow clear rules. You say you have some rules, but those rules are completely breaking down. Families are breaking down. It's right in front of you. Society is breaking down. There are next to no relationships. We're depending on things like Tinder to build relationships, and you cannot. And you have to. And you. Why do you ignore the statistics when, if you have the most children, there is a reason you have the most children, and it's because the families are sticking together. If you're divorced, you can't keep having children, right? So you can't just ignore the realities, okay?
But are they breeding healthy children, those Muslims in this country? I don't think so. Is it a healthy and mentally stable, well-educated children, well-mannered children? Is it? That's a good question.
No, I would say so, because if you have a clear set of rules, okay, and I'll give you an example. This is all over the world. I just like this little example. In the last World Cup, okay, there was only one team, okay, that after they won, they would go to their mothers and celebrate with their mothers. Do you know which team that is?
Could be Morocco.
Moroccan team. And do you know what happened? The king of Morocco, when the team came back, he said, "You with your mothers come to the palace and we want to honor you." No other country does anything like that. Okay, so I would say that is a demonstration of healthy behavior. I do not think Muslims are perfect at all, but they are miles ahead, and you can see
Indians have good family relationship.
Miles-
Indians, they have good family relationship.
I just think
right. There's no comparison to what there's no other
blatant.
football team. Yes,
This is Enid Blyton. This is fiction. This is a fairy story.
it actually happened. The Moroccan team did do that.
No. But
These are real statistics. Why are you ignoring the statistics?
But Muslims been miles ahead. What are you talking about? Miles ahead of who? Me?
You don't have loneliness problems. Listen, these are just statistics. The biggest problem, these are Western problems.
You're talking into the camera.
No, I'm talking to you, and you're ignoring everything I'm
not
saying.
ignoring what you're saying. I can't say what I said by ignoring you. Yeah, I'm not ignoring what you're saying. I'm just saying that what you're saying is nonsense. So I'm listening to what you're saying, but I'm rejecting completely what you're saying.
On what
That doesn't mean
basis?
I'm not listening.
On what basis are you rejecting statistics? How do you think you have lots of children without being in a family?
I've got 3 beautiful children. I've just spent it. We're just going to go out for dinner tonight with my children. They're shopping with their mother in Selfridges. You know, I mean, and I come down here and I hear people saying that because I'm an atheist and we need these family values. It's a lot of nonsense. And godlessness isn't the biggest threat to our society. The religion is the biggest threat to our society. Yeah,
That's an empty claim.
It fosters division. It's not an empty claim. It fosters division. I've seen it. I'm from the west coast of Scotland. We have Catholics and Protestants talking to each other and fighting with each other all the time about absolute nonsense. It's about religion. Why do the religious? Why do they think that they have to come and tell us about it? If you're so happy about your religion and it brings you such peace and it brings you such joy and it brings your family such love and it's such a wonderful thing, fine, I'm pleased for you.
And I'm not doing it for my sake, I'm doing it for your sake, and I'm doing it for the rest of society, which is falling apart.
I want you to leave me. I just want you people, religious people, to leave me alone.
Everybody makes YouTube
I
videos.
just want to be left alone by
You're the one who came here.
I know, but I because
To have an intellectual conversation.
yeah, absolutely, and I think we are having one. I think we're having a useful one, because we're listening to what each other says. But I can't subscribe to this view that the religion offers rules and offers a pathway. I don't want other people's rules. I'll make my own rules. Okay, I will follow the law, but in terms of I'll follow my own rules and I will follow the law because I'm not a lawbreaker. Okay, and I'll follow consensus in that way. But I won't read some work of fiction and let it rule my life. Tell me what I must eat. Tell me what I must wear. Tell me what my wife has to wear. Yeah? No, nobody's going to tell me that. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's good. That's healthy. Yeah? I don't want your stuff. I just want, generally, I don't want bishops in the House of Lords. Why have we got bishops in the House of Lords? Because they're bishops, because they're men of God. I'm paying for those guys in there.
Sure.
Why have churches got charitable status? I don't want my taxes to go
Sure.
to
So I want to keep on
have a choice.
I want to focus on the topic of love, but I can see. Yeah. Okay. So we want to focus on the topic of love. Anyway, as I was saying, listen, we want to solve a real problem. We want to solve a real problem. He said, for example, I don't want people. Excuse me, my friend. Can I just? Yeah, we want to talk about love right now. I agree with some of the things you're saying, right? Bishops shouldn't get free money and all this kind of stuff for no reason, right? Okay. So one thing you mentioned was that you don't want to force your wife to wear certain clothes, right? In Islam, by the way, literally the Quran says there's no force in religion. This is a personal choice. Okay, that's what it is. It's in black and white, literally. Okay, so it's no. But why does Islam talk about these things? It sends some basic rules about how to live so that we don't get ourselves in trouble. And women are much happier that way. They've done. You can nod your head, but I'm just going. There's literally psychological tests done on who has happier body. What do they call it? Basically, self-respect for their body, like are happy within themselves, right? And we know through social media, people, especially women, are really really suffer, but the ones who suffer the least are not just Muslims, but religious people who wear modest clothing. They are the most happy. This is just psychological experiments. So you can listen. I can only talk about statistical evidence.
Study, a psychological study, which means when you can make decision for yourself, whatever you want, your clothes or you make, you are more happy and more satisfied. That's the psychology.
This is no. This is completely wrong because we can see Western society is falling apart. Anyway, we can see Western society is falling apart where people are deciding to choose to wear whatever they want, which is fine, okay? But if that means you're wearing a mini skirt, going to a nightclub, they're the most depressed people, right? Because they end up lonely, right?
He made a good claim, but if women choose to wear veil, then they're going to be happy definitely.
Exactly.
If they choose not to wear it, they're going to be happy.
In fact, me, when I got married,
From the heart, then
which is what you find Muslim women choose to wear this. So anyway, now,
last night in a nightclub. Yeah?
now,
You know,
No.
I don't know if my girls will wear mini skirts. I don't think so. They're
this
about
is
2 years old,
this is my point.
right?
So I'm gonna.
When they were younger, they might have worn a
Sure.
mini skirt. Doesn't mean to say they're depressed and unhappy.
They're very happy. They're in Selfridges shopping. They're having a lovely sunny afternoon in Selfridges. They've been to a nightclub. It's these things like.
I'm going to show you. I'm going to demonstrate. Listen, if we're in a serious relationship, I'm going to talk about this in a bit. But it's kind of my third point. But I'll talk about it very briefly.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good talking to you. Okay, very briefly. Okay, he said, yeah, let the women go to nightclubs and go with strangers and be drunk. Okay, this is going to be part 3 of my discussion, which is if you really want a happy relationship, you need some rules. And if your wife says, I'm going to go with my girlfriend, I'm going to go to a nightclub without you, and I'm going to get drunk, and I'm going to meet lots of strange men. Okay, if you have no rules, then that relationship is not going to last long because when you're drunk, you're not in control. When you're surrounded by strange men.
agreement depend on what agreement you have in between.
This is
If
very
you
simple.
allow her to do this, she should allow you to go out as well.
No,
But if
this
you
is
want to be one-to-one,
yes.
if you agree to stay together and to travel together, to go to nightclub together or bar or restaurant together, then depend how.
So this is the great thing about Islam. Islam says here's a whole bunch of agreements. There you could choose Islam or not Islam, but this is why so many relationships are breaking down because they don't have the rules, the clear, what we call red lines. This is how to behave or not. And if you realistically, everybody can be theoretical, but if you want to be happy, then you want to have less fights and less confusing discussions about very basic things. So if your wife says, "Oh, I want to go drunk with some strange men at night time, and I'll come back," then quite frankly, your relationship is not going to last, and the evidence of your poor relationship is going to be very few children, which I see all the time. I see lots of people who have maybe one child. I'm talking to a friend, and then the wife wants to experiment, and that's the end of the relationship. Okay, so these things, you need some basic rules. Anyway, I want to talk about the method by which, once you know what you truly are looking for in a relationship, then it's very easy to find it. So what happens
with this, so not the next topic. I'm good so far. We're going to talk later.
Sure. Okay. So, boy, guys, I'm losing my crowd. Come. Okay, so I'm going to get you guys to answer a few questions. So I talked about what we need. First of all, when you're looking for someone in a relationship, we shouldn't just be looking for their outward appearance. We want a good person who will make us happy in the long term. And I bet you are probably exactly
Off camera.
brilliant. And so, how do we find these people? Once you know what you're looking for, how do we find it? Right now, the Western way is sort of accidental magic. They believe in the soulmate. They say you don't have to look for them, you'll bump into them by magic. Okay, right? And how does this accidental method look? You go into work and you start staring at that person at work, and then eventually you get infatuated and you try out, you think, oh, that's the one, that's the magical person, and after a few years they're no longer the magical person. So I'm not sure if I believe in this accidental method. And then the other method.
Rental service, man.
Sorry?
Rental service. Everything's rental in this
service,
country.
right.
It's a hire purchase. in this country.
Exactly. You spend a lot of money and you spend a lot of your emotional attachment, and then you break up, and then people.
Very financial, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like the
it's
whole,
financial,
yeah.
but it's very painful because when you break up, it's a big deal, and people stop wanting to look for number two because we've talked about this, right? Okay, people feel so hurt they just give up, right?
We see like the unity of the family and the couple.
Yeah.
We all see in Britain, like amongst the, because white people, I don't want to say white people, but British people, you only see it amongst the older generations. You like the older generation of like Christians and whatever, they're still together. Like you notice that they usually stay together a very long time. So it is a very new thing.
They've got higher values that they're looking for rather than the appearance, which is what's happening at the moment, right? Okay, so there's one side which is the Western way, which is accidental, full of rejection, and full of drunkenness. So you're looking for a person you want to spend your life with half your brain working because you're drunk. This is a terrible way, but I can understand why people will try to get drunk, because naturally people, the opposite sexes, are designed to be shy of each other.
I've never met any. I grew up in Scotland, all white people, right? I never met not one of them met their partners or whatever while being sober. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It's only while drunk.
Yeah. And that's a really strange thing that people are willing to make some of the most important decisions of their life while half their brain is not
It
working.
makes them feel more. It gives you Dutch courage, doesn't it? So it gives people a little bit of.
What it is you're designed to be the sexes are designed to be suspicious of each other, okay? Because men take advantage of women all the time, and so there's an inbuilt design so that you shouldn't, and to overcome that you take a drug to stop your brain from working, your natural impulses and natural self-defense, women's self-defense, to do that. And also men take drugs, which is alcohol, and worse drugs, to overcome the dangerous and bad things they're willing to do, to overcome their goodness within, and take advantage of women.
Inhibitions, basically. They're just completely eliminating all inhibitions.
So what is this amazing system that Muslims are using that is bucking completely the opposite of the trend of Western society? In Western society, there's a population implosion. That means it's a sign that relationships are so bad, and relationships are terrible. 50% of relationships in the UK collapse, right? Okay, relationships are so bad that one of the biggest dangers, Elon Musk has said, the greatest dangers facing society is population implosion, because people are not having enough children. The reason why they're not having enough children because our relationships are not lasting. But the Muslims, they're the ones who are doing exactly the opposite. They seem to be immune to this problem. Not immune because Muslims are not perfect, right? And I should say, if you're not a good Muslim, if you're basically behaving like a Westerner and have got a girlfriend, then you're going to suffer the same problems as a Westerner. So I should say that as well, right? Okay. So how do the Muslims manage to have, as not everybody...
It's a monotheism thing, isn't it? It's not unique to Islam. This is it's anybody who's truly monotheistic, truly believes in God, they do this. You see it in Christians, you see it in Jews, and you see it in Muslims.
Yeah.
So
but you see it mostly in Muslims.
Yeah, you do.
By far, mostly Muslims.
And Jews, obviously. And Jews.
And okay, so yes, there's two kinds of Jews really. If I put it rough, two categories. There's a strict Jews who are truly, they follow the scripture, right? Okay. There's different groups, but there's a lot of Jews, and because I went to a synagogue not too long ago where they have these kind of relaxed, don't follow the rules kind of Jews, right? And I love everybody, I'm not hating on them, but the more they go away from the teachings, just like Christianity, they don't really, you ask Christian, what part of the Bible do you follow? Next to none of it. They don't even know the rules, right? They say, what rules do you follow? Tell me one clear rule you follow. I mean, zero. They just have faith in Jesus, right? In practice, right? And they say in a complicated way, they follow the scripture in spirit, which means nothing really. Okay, so I just want to ask you, Simon, as a Muslim convert, or whatever you want to call it, because I know you don't like to say the word convert, but whatever the description, let me ask you a question. Would you, if you got the option of marrying a non-Muslim or a Muslim, what would you choose and why?
Well,
if I wanted to find a partner, I certainly wouldn't go to a nightclub or a pub or a place of that nature, because I know most people in there would be intoxicated and you would see the worst of nature. And I spent many years watching these people being involved in that business. If you wanted to find a decent, clean, healthy partner, you would go somewhere else. Probably go to night school, go and join a social club. You'd probably meet someone, as you pointed out, in places like that who was sober, clear-headed, and you would have a common understanding. It might not always work, but eventually you would bump into someone. You'd probably find your soulmate. Would I pick a Westerner, a Western woman again? Not a chance. Not a chance. Because they've learned all the bad habits from their parents, from society, from school, from the education system. They've been programmed. Me personally, will go for a Muslim lady. Because I know that they cherish all the rules and regulations from the Quran that are there to keep you fit, healthy and wholesome, basically.
Yeah.
So
And-
the answer is, I would go for a Muslim lady.
Yeah, and it's
Even
not
at my age.
Yeah.
Even at my
No, and
age.
I'm, you know me, I'm gonna, inshallah, get you a new Muslim wife, inshallah. Okay, and there's no joke, it's a serious thing, everybody should be married, and this man as well, inshallah. Okay, God willing, inshallah means. And so, how do Muslims do it? Okay, first of all, because they keep their families together, and the ladies especially, they're the magic, right? Okay, they talk to each other, they talk to the families, because ladies love talking about relationships. Okay, and this is no exaggeration. I remember when I was I'm going to sidetrack a little bit, I was in the Middle East. I was sitting in the staff room, in the teacher's room, and we're in the maths department, and I always talk about maths with them, and they would just be looking at their phone. They hate listening to maths, even if it's a maths department. But the one time I talked about how I found my wife, all the ladies were looking and taking interest. It's inbuilt, and it's a natural thing, it's a good thing, right? Okay, so the ladies talk to the different members of the different families, the mothers talk to each other, and they figure it out. Because I'm part of a very organized Muslim community, the most organized, called the Ahmadi Muslim community, okay, we have expert matchmakers who have all the lists of all the people who are not married, okay, and they look at the family, because they know the different families, and they say, because not all Muslims are the same. Some people are more into material things, some people are less. And if you're a little bit materialistic, yet you're a Muslim, you're better off with another materialistic person, because you will feel uncomfortable with a person who doesn't. If you care about having a really expensive car, yet there's some good things about you as a Muslim, then you're better off with another person who also likes expensive cars, because the person who doesn't care about these things, you have some strain. Does that make sense?
Well, you made a comment there about going to your own community to find a partner. That's what the Irish communities used to do back in the 50s, 60s, 70s. They would look for a respectable girl within the community, like my father did. He found a girl for my oldest brother, and she lived only next door. We knew who this young lady was, we knew her character, we knew she'd not been anywhere else, she'd not sold herself to anybody else, she had a good clean character, and they both got married and they lived happily ever after. That doesn't always work out, but sometimes
It works out better than using an app where you took literally on average, less than 1 second to decide if you want them or not, based entirely on their face. And I agree with this, and I thank you for pointing out that this idea of what I call assisted marriages, community assisted marriages, was normal not too long ago in your generation, one generation ago. But that was possible then because people talked to their neighbours and they knew their neighbours, and now even though London is more dense, full of people than ever, it's more lonely than ever because people refuse to talk to their neighbours.
That's the government. That's the globalist government's fault.
No, I blame the people. I blame the people because I'm in my
You can't blame the people. You blame the government.
Okay, I'm going to give you an example because it's a bit of a sidetrack, but I'll sidetrack a little bit, right? Okay, I'm going to talk about two things. One about, you said about clean, being about clean, a clean wife, and it should be a clean
Not
husband
having a
as well.
history.
Not having a history, that's very important, okay? But I'm going to talk about this loneliness thing. And
damage.
okay,
No
not,
collateral
not,
damage.
not damaged goods. It's very important, actually. First of, okay. I go and I'm a Muslim and I'm the only family that gives the whole street and my neighborhood Christmas presents for the Christians or the non-practicing Christians, the Hanukkah presents to the Jews, okay, and Eid presents for the Muslims, right? Okay, I'm the only person who does that because I'm a Muslim and I don't get anything back. I don't mind. Actually, let me correct that. One Jewish family, they're the ones who remember to give me Eid presents, and I'm not looking for anything, right? Okay, this is the nature of society. I don't want to say everybody's like completely selfish, but mostly they're way more selfish than we like to accept, and this is our fault. The government is not stopping us from being nice to each other and respecting each other. Now the thing about damaged goods, it's not about being insulting, because I use these words so you remember them, right? Okay, if you're a lady who, and this is common sense, but now they had to prove it using science, even though you didn't have to have science to do this, right? If you're a lady who had sex with lots and lots of people, what happened, they've shown, is that your emotional connection with the men you're having sex reduces over time. Okay, so and they said statistically, such people do not stay in relationships very long. This should be common sense. But now they had to prove it using statistics and numbers, and hopefully people will start accepting it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely makes sense. Yeah. I lost my train of thought there because you moved on to something else. But if you just move over.
Yeah, sure. No, I just wanted to make sure it made sense.
That profound thought that was going to change the world.
Yeah. No, it's okay. We're touching
Alzheimer's, I think.
No. There's a whole bunch of interesting topics going on. So anyway, now I just want to move because I'd like to wind up as fast as possible. Listen, just finding the right person is not enough. Go for it.
What we tend to do in Western society, we tend to package people like girls. We tell them, you've got to do this, then you do this. We try to give them this impression that there's going to be a fairy tale ending to everything. So everything's packaged. And what they generally find out is that when they get married, when they've lived for a couple of years with each other, things start to fall apart. It isn't really as good as what we told them when they were young children. The realization kicks in that a lot of what they've been told is false. It's wrong. It's not the right thing to do. It's not healthy.
Give me an example of what things. I think I know what you're talking about, but just to make it concrete, what have these young ladies been told, and that's not unhealthy?
That their parents have any idea of life. That's one of the biggest.
Give me
lies.
one thing that young ladies in the West have been told that they realise later on in life is not good for them.
That their dad has all the answers to life.
Okay, but is that what you're thinking? What are you thinking?
It's my brother has made an important point there. But for me now, I feel that most young ladies are getting their information from the internet. And what young women are doing now is their expectations have gone completely out of proportion in terms of what realistically they're going to get.
Yeah.
And what they've done is they've said to young men, we don't need you anymore, we don't want you anymore, because we've now adopted this different way of thinking. And myself and my brother here were talking about this, and this is probably something hopefully we can talk about later on.
Yeah.
Suicide levels within young men. Why has it come about? Why do they now feel that they're left out? They've got nothing to live for. They're useless. They're incompetent. The women don't need them anymore. They don't need that relationship with the young man.
Women are suicidal as well, but okay, I'll tell you something funny. They're more depressed than men, but the funny thing is, because I know even from experience, like I know one lady who had tried to commit suicide twice. right? But they're not as lethal as men. Men are mechanical, they get the job done, it sounds terrible, and this is statistically true, this is good, check out the research. So it's not like everybody's getting depressed in short, because this is a terrible situation that people are put in. This is no joke, anyway.
4 times higher for men, isn't it? Suicide. And
Just because they're better at it, that's all. It's not that it's not a competition who's most depressed, but women,
they don't know. It says on the internet.
You want to do later on, because I'd like to have a chat about
Yeah.
it. Seriously, like, you know, and it might take a while.
yeah.
Because my brother here has got some statistics.
Yeah.
We were looking at them earlier on, and it's quite profound.
Yeah, and it's very sad. And so I kind of so let's quickly.
There's a direct link between suicide rates and income, lack of religion, holiness, family. There's a direct link. Gender. There's a direct link.
Yeah, and I was actually wanted to talk about this because why white people are dying out in this country, and it's no joke, and it's very clear. And actually, there's the white supremacist I want to look for. Is a very nice white supremacist who wants to say Muslims are taking over, and it's 100% true.
White supremacists.
Yeah, Muslims. It's called the Great Replacement, and Muslims are replacing white people, and it's actually true, but it's self-inflicted. I don't want to talk about that as another topic. But I want to talk about. Okay, let's compare this matchmaking system where communities help each other find people, compared to using the drunken system. When you do a matchmaking system, it's less emotional. You don't have to chat up. You don't have to trick this lady into feeling comfortable and talking to you, okay? Because it's kind of at a little bit of a distance, and your parents who are not so emotional, they're going to look carefully. Is this the right person for the long term, right? And it works, and you can go. You don't have to pick the first person. I was given lots of choices, and we met with the family, and it was like no, yes. And when it was yes, great, bang, sort it out. You know what I mean? Let's get it done.
How many choices do you normally get?
It's
Quite
depending on
interesting. How does it actually work? It's quite interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. You know what? I kind of breezed over this amazing thing because I was just talking to one of my students, and she was like, "Wow, is that even like how?" It's just shockingly amazing, right? Especially the part of the Muslim community I am with is you got matchmakers. And like, just to give you a bit of an idea, in the few streets that are around me, like all the Muslims that I know, all the Ahmadi Muslims, this part of the most organized Muslim community in the world, we know all each other's numbers. And we meet all the time to do community events, and organize things. So we're like, the best way to describe it is like a beehive. Like bees don't just buzz around; they're incredibly organized, like an army, right? Okay, and that we have that internationally. So my wife's not even local; she's from another country, and she can, because at that time the number of Ahmadi Muslims over there was not like a big choice. She wrote in to the central department, and he said, "Come down to London. We're going to sort you out," and she was sorted out. Right? So it's an incredibly organized system. Okay, I think there's always something. Some people will say, "Oh, it's not perfect." Definitely not perfect because it's organized by people, and it's always working on being more improved. But it is pretty amazing, right? Okay, so that's a bit of that about that, and it's a quick system. You don't have to spend years and years and be emotionally involved and all this kind of stuff. You just say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. You keep. You just go through people quickly until you find the right person. Then you go with them, and you're stuck with them for life, and that's fantastic, right? And it's going to more likely to stay. But I want to talk about.
There's a lot of divorces in the Ahmadi community, because in the Sunni Islam there's a lot of divorces and stuff.
So as people are becoming more westernized, and I've met the people who get into divorces, they're becoming more westernized.
And he's been married twice, and he's a very extremely religious, pious person. But even it happens to everybody.
Okay, so I don't think these things are accidental. Okay, I think these things have a reason. So you might claim you're blah blah blah, really good, pious, and all this kind of stuff, but
like he's an actual peer, like he's an actual saint.
Right.
Like he's
Okay.
actually.
So why, if you asked him,
famous all over Kashmir
Sure.
for being a saint. So it's like, yeah, it happens to anybody. It doesn't matter. you know.
Yeah, but like, listen, let's think about it logically. If you're a good person,
Well, I'm telling you, he's a
yeah,
saint,
sure.
and he's a saint from
But that's
Kashmir,
sure.
respected by everybody in Kashmir.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just going to ask you a simple question because this is important, right? Because otherwise, people think it's all accidental and divorces just happen. If you're a really good person, good people naturally like other good people. They're drawn to each other. It's logical. Like if you are, like I'm not naturally interested in the Kardashians who are interested in outward appearance. Okay, people like the Kardashians are attracted to the Kardashians, right? So in the same way with marriages, like, and this is from the Quran as well, good things are for good people. They're naturally attracts like. Okay, so how is it possible that you can keep getting divorced? I'm kind of exaggerating. You maybe had one divorce or two, whatever, right? Okay, you would have selected well in the first place. You would have selected thoughtfully. Okay, and that person also you married would have been a good person, and there's no good reason why. Mostly, there shouldn't be a good reason why you get divorced unless you got a selfish sort of attitude or something you were incompatible in the first place. But you don't have to be interested in the same sport. You have to have same family values, because as you said, there's so many people who are stuck together for long periods of time statistically, and divorces are going up more. There must be a reason, and that's because their values are different. Their values are in appearances and not family values, and not values of making the world a better place, because the more higher your values are, the more reason you have to stick together. So can you see the logic that you can't just be, you can claim to be, and other people might claim to be like pious and special and whatever. You have these priests
Millions of people
in this country
Lots
who
of
are,
people make the claims, but there is only one. Like in Islam, in the Muslim world, I might be butchering this, but someone can verify this. There is only one lineage in Islam, and that's of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, isn't it? And that's the Sayyid people, and that's the Sayyid people.
yeah, I kind of want to do, yeah.
That's the lineage of saints that I'm referring to.
Yeah, I kind of want to. I don't want to go into too much because my audience is just like a general. Anybody looking for the truth. I don't want to go too Islamic or whatever.
One thing I've noticed by the actually.
Yeah.
Nobody likes to talk about the Islamic royal family. Nobody likes to talk about it. Here, especially in Speaker's Corner.
Yeah. Anyway. So, okay, listen. So once you found the right person, that is not the end of the story. You want to stick together forever, right? Okay. And what are the basic? Yeah, it's not good enough just to find the right person. You've got to be the right person, and you've got to be the right person for life. And I'm going to tell you some basic qualities of sticking together that most people in the West are missing. Okay. And I'm going to say something, and you might go, "What?" I'm sure everybody's this. Kindness is missing. What is kindness? Kindness is when you're nice to somebody, even if you don't get something back. And you might say, "Oh no, I fell in love and I was really kind to somebody." When you've fallen in love, that's not kindness. Partly that's lust, but think about it. If you're really truly a loving, kind person, this is what I've seen. People who are in love with each other, just the two of them, right? They're not kind to everybody. Okay? If you're a loving person, you're kind to everybody, you're social to everybody, you start talking to all your neighbors and you're nice to everybody. What falling in love is, just like I said in the beginning, it's like when you enjoy an iPhone, okay, you think you're getting something for it, and then you give love or kindness back. That's a trade, that is not love. Okay, so you need to develop love. And the reason why people, and I'm not just being rude or unnecessarily difficult, this is incredibly important. If you want to stay in a relationship, you need this thing called kindness. And it sounds obvious, but most people don't have it. And one of the big reasons, and you can demonstrate that people don't have this, is because people are not even kind to their families. They're not even kind to their parents who brought them up, that they send them to old people's homes. So these people who are growing up, they've been taught all the wrong things by their family. This is why you would like a Muslim girl who's been programmed the right way with the right values about being kind. So respecting everybody, okay, and when you know how to respect everybody, then you respect your husband or your wife in the long term, when the excitement of trying to get a husband or wife has worn off and you have the husband or wife, okay, then you need to practice kindness. Does that make any sense? Do you disagree that people are unkind?
It was interesting to hear your comments about the Amity way of getting married. Some wonderful things there. It would be absolutely fantastic if that's how it was with everyone. But I just can't see that working in this society, because what young women tend to do now is revert back to technology. They go on these different sites looking
Especially Muslim women nowadays.
basically looking for something that doesn't exist. The problem with a lot of Western women is their expectations are too high in terms of everything. The house, the car, the job, the money, all these things that are false and mean absolutely nothing. And what they want is a partner who can actually be an equal.
It's materialism. It's material. It's extension. Beside, that's why I call people that's why I call Westerners searching for iPhones, not people. Okay, they want something to show off to somebody else. They don't want a human being to be kind to, and that's why these things are collapsing. So I agree with you.
They want quick feelings.
Quick feelings.
It's social media era. That's what they're taking advantage of, aren't they? They're taking advantage of. In human beings, we have this innate need to be liked, to be noticed, to be, and this is what the powers to be are taking advantage of. They take advantage of this impulsive nature that we have.
Yes. So we are actually in the West addicts to materialism, and that's why it makes us do really strange things that we know in the back of our heads that we should look for a good person, but our addiction to wanting something right now, including people, makes us choose really bad people, and then we get treated like rubbish. These women get treated like rubbish, literally basically treated by psychopaths like rubbish. Okay, this is what Jordan Peterson described such people who are successful on Tinder, the men. Okay, but yet we don't learn the lesson, because addicts, when you're an addict, you don't learn lessons, you keep making mistakes.
Young ladies are watching programs on YouTube, etc. You mentioned the Kardashians. Can you honestly say that by watching the Kardashians on these programs that you're going to learn how to be a good person, a decent person? What these young ladies need to realise is these people who they're watching, their lives are ruined. Their lives are completely false. They are not what they try to portray. And if you young ladies are trying to be like this, it's not surprising that you end up failing.
Do you know how she became famous? Because her dad's
Sex tape.
Yeah, her dad's a famous surgeon in California, and she made a sex tape with an NFL player. And that's how she became famous.
And a lot.
Money from her dad to do the publicism and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's how she got started, and then she did a lot of hard work. People say, doing lots of exactly. We love exactly hard that kind.
We won't go there. We don't have to go.
We don't need to go there, right? Okay. So anyway, but I'm still trying to wind up, and I'll quickly wind up.
One more quick comment
go on.
about love.
Yeah.
You mentioned the aspect of love. For me personally, I think that isn't an instantaneous thing. It comes over time. Getting to know that person. You mentioned a wonderful thing some time ago. It's almost like being a brother and sister. There's a difference in terms of what that love is. When you're a brother and sister, that's the love that's been, you're bound together.
It's unbreakable.
It's unbreakable. It's in your DNA. But when you meet a stranger, it's not quite the same. I think it takes time to develop, because it's a completely different relationship, physically, mentally, spiritually, socially, two completely different things.
I'm going to say something funny that my mum told me. She said, if you're good to your mother, you'll be good to your wife.
Well,
right?
true.
And I think that because kindness is a muscle, you have to practice it. Okay? So it kind of makes sense, right? If you're kind your whole life, you know how to have good family relationships, then you will try good to your wife, who might sound a bit weird. She's your sister in a way in Islam, right? She's another human being. And if you forget that, then you can't be kind, okay? And now... there is also the sexual aspect, and that's what I want to talk about very briefly, right? Because people, if you treat people like iPhones, then you'll always be looking over and you think the grass is greener on the other side. How do you overcome that? So I want to talk about very briefly, how do you stay in a relationship? Number one, you have to practice kindness, and you practice that. If you're part of a good family, you'll know that better. But if you are looking at porn, or whenever any lady goes past, you're checking them out, what happens to your brain? Your brain starts saying, that looks better than my wife, that looks better than my wife, and then you will resent your good looking wife. Because don't forget, God has created all sorts of works of art. Women are works of art, but they're different works of art, and you should be able to appreciate them. There's something called, I think, husband goggles or something like that. Okay, what it is, if you marry young, and this is been shown in psychological studies, really interesting, but I think it only works for people who do not look around, as in stare at other women, right? Okay, if you get married young, you will see your wife 20 years later the same as you saw her then. Okay, you don't see her as an old lady, you see her as that same young lady, as long as you don't look around, which is really interesting. So this is how you can maintain that attraction to your wife. Okay, so I'm not saying just don't look at porn, I'm saying this is gonna, or don't look at other ladies, this is gonna help you. And this is in Islam, it says keep your eyes down, control your eyes. That's what the Quran says. Okay?
Well, I would say, just to be a little bit different, I would say don't look at porn. Because when you look at porn, what are you doing? You are agreeing with the fact that some of these people have been taken from the slave trade. Young girls have been trafficked. So there's a whole different system there that we can talk about, that people are basically making money out of. And if you agree with that, then
I agree. So if you have compassion for human beings, then you would also, that's another very good reason to avoid looking at porn, because these people are basically being abused. They're not just getting money. If you look at what's actually happening behind the scenes, this is just a show they put on for you, and they're being abused, and they're really troubled human beings who are going through that. They're really badly treated, but you don't know how badly treated, because obviously they're going to cut that part out of the video.
Can you imagine turning on a channel and you see your daughter there, or you see your mother, and then you see your grandmother? I mean, come on.
Brilliant example. Try to make it real. Like, imagine your own family members being used like that, then you understand how terrible it is, right? Okay, and then of course I'm just going to quickly, the rules. The reason why Muslims stick together, or families stick together, it's not just because they have the right method of finding people, it's they have very clear rules. So just like and I'll make some. I'm gonna connect it back to sex again, just because people don't like the rules. But if I can connect it to that, people might think, oh yeah, maybe that makes sense. First of all, don't spend your whole life just trying to make more and more money to show off to other people, because then you get stressed and your life becomes stressful, and then you've got no family life, and then you'll have a terrible, when you work too long, too many hours for unnecessary things, for bigger TVs and all this kind of stuff, right? Then you'll be stressed when you come home, and you won't like your wife, you won't like anybody, and you'll have more fights. Then the second thing is, this is a clear thing in Islam, let only the man work. Okay, women get abused in jobs. This is statistically true. If you're a certain age, between 20 and 30, because women are agreeable, they do the less paid jobs. I don't want to get into it too much, but they get less paid jobs, and they just take crap from everybody. Where men take less crap from people, right? Okay, and men are just more effective at making money. This is all statistically true. If you get, everybody knows men earn more than women, and they say, oh, it's not about equal pay. No, it's just that men do jobs that make more money. That's all it is, right? And then, if you have all of that, you see, the reason why I'm saying, I've missed out the key thing. The reason why I'm saying men should work and women shouldn't is because if women work as well, what happens practically is they're always too tired and you're never going to have any sex. That's just what happens. Okay, this is true. I'm trying to keep it really simple. And so, and also you don't actually become much richer, because another study that's been done is that when you have both parents working, then you have to pay for extra things like childcare and everything, and you're so miserable they have to pay more for entertainment to get over. You have to even start taking drugs to overcome all the suffering you're going through, because there's no home life, because your wife is also working and she's knackered, you're knackered, and you don't even see each other and have any relationship with each other. And then finally, in Islam it's very clear that your wife should have sex with you when you ask for it. But even in my relationship that's not true, right? Okay, so we at least have a sex schedule. Right? It sounds really crazy, but this is really important. You should, in Islam, it's all about being consistent and reliable and whatever, and being very clear with each other. So I just talk about these things so people think about it, that the reason why a lot of Westerners don't like rules is because they think it's restrictive. I'd say without the rules, you have nothing. You have nothing, and you have chaos, and you have disaster, and you don't have a relationship. And that's what I want to say. Any last words?
Yeah, me personally, I believe you cannot force a woman to have sex. It's got to be a consensual thing, because otherwise it becomes unhealthy. There are certain times throughout the month where you're not allowed to approach your partner
When they're having a period, yeah.
Having the period, and when you go to the masjid, you've got to not have sex. Or if you do, you've got to wash, you've got to clean, have a shower before you go to the masjid. If the lady's ill, so there are things there that you're not allowed to do. I mean, imagine if it was the other way around.
All I'm saying is yes,
and the man was forced to do it. How would you feel?
I love being forced, but anyway, that's another thing. Anyway.
Put yourself in her position.
Yeah.
You're not well, you're not feeling good, you've had a hard day, and then you're forced to do something that you might not want to do. Surely it should be about compromise. And I think that's part of...
That's part of the kindness that we're talking about.
You start to fall in love with the person.
Yeah.
Because you're not forcing that person to do something that is difficult. She might want to, but she might not just be able to.
So what I'm saying is that when the rules are not there, these things start falling apart, and you hear about sexless marriages. So say again, what does
Islam say about love?
That men and women are it's described as a clothing for each other, a protection from each other. So men protect women, okay, and women are like the heart of the family, basically. So men and women, the reason why it's the word clothing is described, and the Arabic word for clothing is amazing. It describes security. They're security for each other, they're protection for each other. Like women protect men by giving them the warmth and and fulfilling their sexual desires, so they protect them from bad things. And men physically protect them and create a safe household and so many other things. And they make each other beautiful. So marriage is not just some contract where we're locked to each other. Jordan Peterson said this in a beautiful way. When you're forced to stay with each other, then you're forced to learn how to behave, how to be kind, and how to be... This is why in Islam it says marriage is half of your faith, because when you're married, you have to do so many things that are in your faith that you can't do otherwise. Okay, you have to be kind to this person, you have to be understanding, you have to be patient. This marriage is hard work, but the benefit is that you become a better human being, because that's the whole purpose of everything in Islam, is that you become a beautiful human being, a more free human being, and essentially a more happy human being when you are all those things. Okay, I'll just wind up there. You want to say last words?
Mutazum. Aki. Brilliant, brother.
Okay, he's practicing his Arabic. He's doing well. He's doing well.